Crowdfunding for GoldenFox Pictures is supported by my patrons, including Science Steel Rail, Jack Foley, Courtney Bright, and Thomas Fan 3751. Thank you all for your support, and to all my viewers, I hope you enjoy this video.
We don't know what it does except something horrible. Three gongs. Last time it was 4. What happens when it gets down to 1?
Nothing good, that's for certain.
When I first saw the trailer for The House with the Clock in its Walls, I was under the impression that it would be another flick that would copy off of the aspects of Harry Potter, where a kid is about to learn magic or any particular set of skills that are beyond reality's imaginations. It also didn't help that the movie had a lot of Halloween-based visuals with that similar atmosphere. On the contrary, seeing that there are movies with something horror-related to younger audiences has somewhat had that question about whether or not kids should get involved into such material, or at least based on Doug Walker's editorial about the subject matter. What's my answer? Yes, of course. We otherwise wouldn't have Halloween. There are kids who say they even love a good scare. It's a thrill of excitement. And to them, they think it's cool. My brother was a huge fan of the Aliens and the Predator franchise. I used to enjoy moments from Ghostbusters and The Nightmare Before Christmas. But there are two major reasons that I can personally think of. One, because it challenges their willingness to confront with general fears and encourages them to grow confidence for themselves. Two, it breaks out of the limitations to where kids can discover and explore the unknown and wonder by stepping out of their comfort zone. And three, because they love to seek a thrill. So there's no surprise that there are movies with a Halloween-like style that was aimed for kids. Goosebumps, Are You Afraid of the Dark, Return to Oz, of course Harry Potter, just to name a few. However, when I finally sat down and gave a watch to The House with the Clock in its Walls, I found out that through the opening credits that this movie was not intended to be like Harry Potter at all. The movie was based on a 1973 novel of the same name by John Bellers, and it is the first entry of the Louis Barnevelt series. Additionally, the movie is directed by Eli Roth, who has had a huge track record of directing many horror titles. Such works include Hostel, The Green Inferno, and Cabin Fever, which I wasn't a fan of. But it's nice to see that he takes on a movie in which its demographic was outside of his older works. Now, seeing that this is based on a book, I can only critique the movie on its own since I never read the original novel. And to whether or not the book was better is a completely different topic that I am unable to cover. With that being said, this is a movie that was a lot better than I expected. Our main protagonists are Louis, Florence, and Jonathan. Aside from the discoveries of magic, the major portion of its story carries two major themes that intertwine with Louis: loss and embracing herself and being an outcast. He's dealing with the loss of his parents and adapting to a new environment. Parental loss narratives are nothing new to the table, so I wasn't too fond of the core meaning, just another roll in my eyes at how done to death it was. However, that didn't mean that it was disengaging, because the way this motive plays a role in its story is very well utilized. Being an outcast, on the other hand, is something I felt more related to since I had the same experience in my younger years. This is also something I feel many kids can relate to since I was always told that they had similar experiences, especially when trying to be a part of a cool kids club, only to be rejected. This similarly happens to Louis through pressure, but the film goes out of its way implying that it's always good to be a weirdo. Both of these conflicts intersect with each other that brings forth our main antagonist, Isaac Gizzard. Explained by Jonathan and Florence, they are on a search to find a cursed clock that was hidden within the house as the title states. On the one hand, it has mentally challenged their sanities and finding it ever since it was summoned by Isaac. On the other hand, it's a doomsday clock. Of course. But this all adds up to loss, sanity, and the pros and cons in being an outcast, and they're all thematically connected so well that whatever challenges they face is a huge payoff. Jack Black as Jonathan was surprisingly well acted. Most of the time I've seen Jack Black as a humorous role in a wide variety of movies that were centered around comedy, but rarely does he ever take a serious role. And when he does, it can be pretty bizarre for me. And that's not to say that he had these before, but it's nice to see him step out of his boundaries. His character fits too well with Jack's usual charm. This does come off bias here, but I do have a massive amount of respect for him. But even setting that aside, Jonathan is tugged between taking care of a child and what he has to do in stopping the world from ending. Kate Blanchett as Florence I also enjoyed having around, as she was more sympathetic to Louis, but also bounces off of Jonathan in a humorous and passive-aggressive fashion. She understands Louis's turmoil, as she has also dealt with loss on top of giving Jonathan a reality check when he needs to partake responsibility for Louis. All of these three characters bear a natural connection because of everything happening, and I really enjoyed that. Not to mention the house itself is very wonderfully presented. The living stained glass window is a character, a lion topiary is a character, and even a sofa is a character. It definitely provides charm that bounces off of an overall witful atmosphere. This movie isn't always wonder and happy though. It does take a turn when the mystery unfolds about Isaac and his motive. I won't spoil anything, but I will address something that is actually quite adult and can be appreciated as younger viewers grow to understand when they get older. The movie is taking place in the mid-50s, which would still hit hope for those who would have PTSD from World War II. This especially connects thematically towards any form of sanity or harsh realities that even the main cast is confronted with. This actually impressed me with how fitting it was to the timeline since World War II was a very difficult time. That shouldn't take anyone by surprise, but that does seem to work as its commentary flows more naturally than cramming it into your face. Unfortunately, during the final act, there is a pee joke in there, which didn't seem needed as it was too juvenile to be put into a serious situation. So while the movie does borrow some familiar plot pieces, it does its job at making it entertaining and paying off what you were following within its story. As much as it is aimed for a wider audience, I wouldn't recommend this too much for adults unless you're a Jack Black fan, but definitely a movie for kids to enjoy as the aforementioned addresses. It isn't on the same level as Harry Potter or the many titles involving a Halloween-like style, but I never expected it to be. It is still visually appealing and colorful, and it works off that familiar charm that'll keep you entertained. The acting is solid with characters to help with the themes that intertwine. When you have the chance, it's at least worth one look. Not a great movie, but a movie that is still worth your time. To the final rating, I give it a 3.5 stars. Thank you for watching. This is GoldenFox, and take care.